Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering One Piece, episodes 315 and 316. In these episodes, it's party time, everybody. As usual, all of our friends who have managed to make it to the other side of Enies Lobby, which is everybody, mostly, they all have to party down, as is tradition, and y'all know that this is one of my favorite things. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Gabby for commissioning this episode. I don't see Gabby in the chat here, but girl, we're thinking of you. Thank you so much. We are wrapping up on this Enies Lobby whole deal, and I had forgotten the tradition of partying afterwards. I think this was just such a long arc between Enies Lobby and Water 7, and they really do go together. Water 7 is just a lead-in to Enies Lobby. There's no wrapping on that one. I had forgotten about like the sort of celebratory thing, especially because we don't really get that kind of celebration after Skypiea. We have our friends escaping, we meet up with that like group and take gold and stuff. And I guess that's like the closest we get to it as a sort of victory lap, but it doesn't have the same kind of feeling to it because of the way they have to like bail because I think they're being attacked. And it isn't with a lot of the same people that they were, that the arc started off with. So, and then they just wind up like having to basically ride this huge octopus to the ground, which is extremely stressful and made me very nervous. And so the sensation of like, oh, good, we can chill for a minute. I never really like felt it. I never felt everybody truly let their hair down and relax. And I guess it's just because of the way they had to like get up and run up out of there. Florian says there is a party in Skypiea with a big fire and the snake, but don't they have to like run away because they think they're being attacked because they're taking all that gold? Correct me if I'm wrong, Florian, because it's been a while, as you all know. But I feel like I remember the way things ended with them making me stressed out. You know what? I don't even need these. What am I doing? I'm just going to take my headphones off for right now. They're pressing my glasses into my ears. That is after the party. Okay. So, but I guess that's what I mean. And like, I shouldn't be too chill with this either because it's the next day and things are already kind of not going entirely their way. But, Gus is saying they partied for 3 days. Okay. All right. So that's good. It just didn't feel the same to me. I don't know. It was like, I'm glad we got it. And I'm really glad that snake was okay. You guys know how much I care about these giant animals. But I think that there was just this sort of lingering, like, we're not in our native turf right now, we're still up in the sky. So all of our friends are in their various elements. And when we start things off, we are still with Luffy, and he is getting a lecture from his grandfather about how, just because you're my grandson, I am not going to catch you and I'm not going to report you. I'm just going to give an excuse to the Marines. And he says that the excuse he's going to give is that this is his grandson and one of his like second in command type guys. He has a few of these. I'm not sure whether to call them second in command or what their title would be. Lieutenant has to chime in and be like, you can't just say it's my grandson, so I let him go. Let's just tell them that he got away. And there's something about, I've said this already, but the fact that this guy is so intimidating looking and he is so goofy at the same time, my brain is just really having a difficult time reconciling that. And we keep getting told via his body language, via his dialogue, via the way his men treat him, that this dude is a giant baby in a lot of ways, in a similar sense to Luffy. But I forget it and then have to be reminded immediately. Like, it's every 5 minutes. I just, he's a very tall, imposing, gray-bearded man with scars on his face. He looks like somebody who has his shit under control. And I keep, believing that and then remembering and believing it again and then remembering again. And it's just back and forth. So, anyway, the fact that his people keep having to be like, dude, we can't do it that way. And when he says to Luffy, I'm going, Luffy's like, all right, bye. And he gets really mad that Luffy isn't sadder that he's leaving. And Luffy is like, dude, all you have done since you got here is yell at me and hit me. Of course I don't care that you're leaving. And he's like, well, you should still care. And I really, I want to make it clear when I talk about this, I am not trying to sell it to anybody else, to convince anybody. And I am also not trying to denigrate anybody else's opinions on this, because everybody has their preference. But this is a scene that I feel like is a really good example of why the dub is working for me a lot better. The whole way that the dialogue is set up here in the sub, if I had been just reading this dialogue, I would have been very, very confused about what exactly was supposed to really be the vibe here. I'm going to just rewind 10 seconds. So this one guy is like, we'll just tell them that we got away. And we have the back and forth, and it's supposed to be sort of I'm playful, but I'm still mean because I don't know how to modulate my feelings. And this dude, when he says, we'll just tell him we got away, the grandpa then says, Garp, I just came along with these two. Take your time and talk with them. I'm going back. Okay, see ya. And he punches him and says, that's too casual. And right away, I'm like, that's too casual. And then be more reluctant to say goodbye, you idiot. Which it was at first, that's too casual, I would read as you're supposed to pay me more respect as your superior, as your elder. But then the be more reluctant to say goodbye feels much more well, aren't you going to miss me? What the hell? And what do you want me to do? All you did was hitting me. Even so, I still want my grandson to love me, you moron. And it's just such a weird tone. And just with the dub, it makes a lot more sense to me. And there's a lot of times where I look at this and I'm like, I just don't know what I would have really gotten from this scene. It's not that different, but the wording, a little change can really alter the interpretation I have of what's going on and the tone that they're trying to set, Also, I have to say that when we're dealing with a character like this, who is violent, really, I mean, there's no real other way to say it. Somebody who has difficulty with communicating their feelings in a way that is not a physical assault. The dialogue is extra important because my instinct is to be irritated with them and to kind of be like, dude, why did you just punch him? What warranted that? And it's like I'll sort of be reading the dialogue slanted towards this person sucks, which isn't like a, I that's just the way that I'm going to sort of be biased when a character is acting this way. And the dialogue being the right kind of like playful or over the top is really important to lightening things up and making me feel like, okay, well, you are absolutely a maniac, but you're not like a bad person. And this has made me sort of think about going back and rewatching the arc where our friends meet Chopper. Because you guys know that, like, I was super unhappy with Chopper's whole origin. The whole thing with, like, the cherry blossom petals didn't work for me. The whole thing with, like, both of his tutors, I guess is what I want to say, his mentors being like low-key abusive and gaslighty and shitty, that really bummed me out, and I didn't like either of them, and I had a really difficult time connecting with that storyline because I was just kind of the whole time like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Like, seriously. And I'm sort of wondering if I went back and watched it with the dub and I got a slightly different version of the dialogue that felt like it connected a little bit more, would I like this arc more than I did with the sub? And I don't know, and I haven't obviously done that, but I'm thinking about just going and seeing how I feel about it, because I felt a little bit bummed when, especially looking back. You guys know how much I love Chopper now. And like most of our friends, the way that we meet them and the way that they join the crew, that memory is sort of like, it's a cute nostalgia thing because that's where everything began, with them being part of the Straw Hats. And I feel that way with Nami. I feel that way with Usopp. But I don't feel that with Chopper, who we all know is my low-key favorite. So I want to feel better about his origin. So I'm just sort of like searching for ways, because there's almost a part of me that feels like so many people did seem to connect with that arc that maybe I'm missing something, So anyway, it's not hugely important, but I just wanted to mention it because I was thinking about the difference in the way I felt about Garp when I was watching it with the sub only versus when I put the dub on, because I did it for a little bit just to see. And I really didn't like him as much with the sub because the communication was so unclear that I was just tending to like think the worst of him. Anyway, so this little bit, all of Luffy's friends are watching and are just like, yep, they're definitely family. So we have this scene, and it's sort of a funny thing. So his grandpa goes away. We have a little like moment with everybody but Luffy. No, actually, Luffy, Nami, and Usopp are all not here. We've got Zoro, Robin, Chopper, and Sanji, who is the one making tea. And they're talking about the fact that Dragon is related to Luffy, which I keep expecting that name to be like more. Usually when somebody has the word dragon in their name, it's like part of a title, like, they'll go do a color thing, like black dragon or red dragon, or it wouldn't just be dragon. And so every time they say it, I think that there's going to be another word that goes with it. But no, apparently that is all it is. And Sanji asks Zoro here, are you going to go and talk to those guys? Because they're your friends too, aren't they? Which, did you hear him mention about how he was like crucifying Zoro, Sanji? I mean, maybe Sanji just doesn't really care because he does not like Zoro and he's sort of like, just get out of here. I don't want to deal with you. But Zoro says it does bring back memories. And I was like, that is a good ambiguous way to say a thing like that. And that's something that I'm going to tuck into my pocket, I think. And that way, if anything happens and I'm just like, well, yeah, but that's actually got a lot of trauma, or that person was actually kind of terrible, or blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to say a very ambiguous, that brings back memories. So Nami is like thinking to herself that she wants to like hear some stories about the Marines and how things work with them. And we find out that she is by the pool and she has set up this like radio to listen in on them. And I was sort of puzzled by this. I don't really know why she is so interested. If it's just about the concept of map making and like exploring, and she thinks that they may have information that they're hiding from them. But I didn't really understand her interest and her motivation here. And this is when we go to Luffy and he is like sitting on a bunch of rubble and stuff talking to Coby, actually. Because Coby is the one that mostly talks to Luffy, and then Helmeppo is like in the background and sort of chimes in every now and then, but he's not really like the main person. So Luffy says something about them crossing that mountain, and Coby says, no, we didn't cross it. And Luffy's like, I thought that was literally the only way to get here. What do you mean? And he's like, yeah, that article was full of shit. And Helmeppo starts getting mad at him because evidently this is supposed to be kind of like a secret, I guess, that the Marines are keeping. And he tries to wave it off and act like it's fine. But Helmeppo is like, he's a fucking pirate, dude. So Coby is like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to tell you anyway, because I like you. Headquarters battleships can get through the calm belt. And Luffy is like, what do you mean? That's not fair. And I don't know what this means, guys. If you guys want to help me out here, I would appreciate it. But, Coby says it's not 100% reliable. And it turns out that there are all of these sea kings that are sort of clogging the area, but the ships they have are big enough that usually it's not a problem, although sometimes it can be. At the bottom of battleships, this is Coby saying, they spread these stones called sea prism stones, which we know what they are. The sea prism stones release the same energy as the sea itself. So to the fish in the sea, and then we go to Nami, who's listening. So even when those ships pass by on the sea's surface, the sea kings wouldn't notice them. Which, doesn't really make any sense at all, but that's fine. I'm not really going to worry about it. So we get a brief, look at the weirdo map, and I know that Gabby has sent me this map, and I think that I just kind of forgot how bizarre it is in this universe, but the way that they sort of enter onto the Grand Line, they come in sideways, and we're seeing this from Nami's perspective, because obviously she sort of sees things as a map in her head. But yeah, we get to see this sort of area that they're crossing through, and I don't remember the calm belt at all. I've got to be honest. And the reverse mountain that I'm going to screen share for a second. Seraphim is saying the calm belt is a pair of strips of dead calm ocean filled with sea kings on either side. Right. But okay, I'm going to screen share here because this is the part that was confusing to me. he says we didn't have to cross the reverse mountain. And just to back it up 10 seconds so you can see the direction that the ship comes, when we see the ship entering by crossing the calm belt, it's crossing already past the reverse mountain. So is that mountain, like, there? I don't see an end to the mountain in that map image. So what I'm saying is, how did they not have to cross it? Does the mountain end? I got the impression the mountain pretty much was like continuous and a major block, like almost fully ringing the planet, if that makes sense. And so the ship is just like showing up already past the reverse mountain, which I'm like, that's not really, I don't understand how it doesn't really solve the problem of needing to cross the mountain from the way this illustration is showing. Let's see. Gus says, wait, did you watch that part of the filler after Logtown where they accidentally went into the calm belt and got attacked by sea kings? I don't remember, Gus. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't remember. It's been so long now. It sure isn't ringing a bell, but some of that filler is very forgettable. So, oh no. Gus says the mountain goes all the way around the world. Florian says, see the blue line there on the right? That is where Laboon the whale was. The blue line on the right. You mean, I'm sorry. I wish that there was a way to, like, because I know that if you're listening to this is probably really frustrating. But I'm not following because there's like a bunch of blue lines. So yeah, I'm thinking that maybe somebody's going to have to like share something in the Discord to help me out. And I think, was it Gus? Was it you that shared the video of the kids? What do they call it? 4 kids with Robin with the Southern accent, because I watched that and oh my God, that shit was so awful. I hated it so much. Let's see. Seraphim says, yes, that landmass is the red line and that chick's the globe. But if they were already on the same hemisphere, they wouldn't need to cross the mountain. I thought, yeah, I'm not following. I'm sorry. I'm just going to have to like look into this later, because clearly trying to do this via words without visual isn't going to help. But yeah, the calm belt to me, like the side that, okay, so Florian is saying right of the word mountain. So they cross the reverse mountain going from left to right in order to get into the Grand Line. Or, yeah, see, Gus says, this map is kind of bad. All entrances to the reverse mountain also look like they're in the calm belt. That's part of what is confused. Like, so maybe it's the map. Maybe it's just that they, showed something really quick that's not supposed to really be. Because I was looking at this and I was like, I don't understand how any of that was able to be sidestepped, or why our friends couldn't, like, I'm just gonna let it go. And if anybody wants to share further info, but it just feels like sometimes I can just say, okay, well, that's not important in the grand scheme, and move past it. And this, because they talk about it for a little while, it feels like it is important enough that I should get it. So I want to make sure that I have at least the like basic understanding. Anyway, okay. So yeah, this is a big deal for Nami to find out. And she's just excited because this is science that she wouldn't be privy to if it weren't for overhearing here. I want to know where they're going to get a bunch of sea prism stones, because I do not know where those are from or how hard to get they are or what. But if they can load their hull up with a ton of those, then they are going to be pretty sitting pretty, at least when it comes to like, you know, the creatures of the deep, if not for human beings. I do like this moment where Nami is like getting poked and prodded by Chimney and her cat rabbit, and they are wanting her to come swimming, and she's like, I'm busy, and they get really mad. This is such a thing with kids, and I appreciated it, especially at a pool. Like, Mom, come in the water, come on. And this is where we hear about like Dr. Vegapunk, who is a marine biologist, I think they say, or maybe a marine scientist. And she repeats his name back, so I am assuming we're going to meet this person. But this mention here, when she's like considering what she can do with this information and whether or not it's like, you know, let's see, a marine scientist. Yes, not a marine biologist. My bad. He's really incredible. For example, take devil fruits like the one you ate. He's already clarified how their powers get transmitted. In addition, another one of his big achievements is creating new tech that allows an object to eat a devil fruit, which we have run across already. So I guess that's, I mean, that also kind of, they're talking about it like this is a new thing that he has discovered, but we have encountered two different people who have objects that had eaten devil fruit power, so it can't be that new, I don't think. But anyway, Coby is talking to Luffy here about how like much of the world he has seen since jumping into the Marines, and like the craziness of the way he met Luffy. And he says something about like, if you hadn't been in that barrel, I'd probably like still be working for Alvida. And Luffy starts laughing at him and just sort of teasing him about the fact that he was working for Alvida, which apparently Helmeppo didn't know. And when he finds out, he's like just kind of mocking Coby, who I have to say, Coby actually, I thought he was going to get real mad. And instead he just sort of gets rueful and is like, well, yeah, I probably could have run away, but I was too much of a coward. And the fact that Helmeppo didn't know about this is kind of funny, because I guess they haven't really talked about the way that all of this fell together, you know? And this is when Luffy is kind of kind to Coby and is like, you've gotten pretty strong, huh, buddy? Like, good for you. And Coby admits that it hasn't been easy, and that Luffy's grandpa has been pushing him and Helmeppo pretty hard. But he took them in when they didn't really have anywhere else to go. And now that they're training in Marine headquarters, they're really growing exponentially. And when he says something about how, like, you know, he isn't easy on us, we get a couple of shots of Garp punching them into the air and leaving them in crumpled heaps on the ground and walking away. And Coby just says, it's tough, but I do really appreciate him. And then we have this, like, it's a weird thing, because, like, they have shifted locations, but they're still talking in kind of the same way. And Coby starts telling them about a different section of the sea. And he says that there's, like, a place past the red line, I think he says. And he calls it the New World, which, of course, is what they used to call America. And I don't know exactly if this is going to be a sort of like allegory for that, or if it's going to be a totally different thing. But that sea is allegedly, like, if you conquer that, then you become king of the pirates, which I had always thought it was if you find the One Piece, you become king of the pirates. So I guess you have to find the One Piece and you have to conquer the sea. And the point of it seems to be like doing it together. Like, you know, I'm gonna read what the sub dialogue says. It's always really tough too, because like I say, I watched the dub, but the sub is not a direct translation of the dub. So I'm gonna be reading this a little bit differently than the way that I heard it when I was watching it. But okay, so Luffy just said the new world. We see all of these ship masts passing by each other. It's a sea where those who will open the way to the next era gather. The one who comes to conquer this sea will indeed be king of the pirates. And we just get like a pan from one face to another, and everybody looking like pretty determined about it. And Coby then says, Luffy, I am going to meet you there, and you're going to be like a big badass, but I am going to have grown too. And I'm going to capture you because I'm going to become a Marine Admiral. And as soon as he says it, there's this long pause, and he falls backward and like starts flailing on the ground. And I was like, what is wrong with this kid? And it turns out like what it is that this goal in his mind is so absurd that to even say it out loud is like he's humiliated himself by even pretending that he could ever reach that stage in his career, kind of thing. And I have to say, I felt so bad for Coby. Like, he has grown so much and he has gotten stronger, but he still thinks so little of himself that even like stating a goal embarrasses him. And I just really like, Coby, baby, I just want better for you. You deserve better than to feel this way about yourself. You know what I mean? So, Seraphim is saying a bunch of stuff here that I missed. Sorry. The important takeaway is that the Navy can enter or exit the Grand Line wherever they want, more or less safely, while anyone else can only enter at Reverse Mountain and can't leave it easily or safely. Right. I just wish I understood how that worked, because that map did not make it seem like that was a thing. Relatively new, as in last few years, not brand new, just discovered yesterday. Gotcha. Most people assume that the One Piece is on whatever island is at the very end of the Grand Line, since the only person to ever reach there was Roger. So, the Seraphim earlier said it's the second half of the Grand Line. Do you mean the Red Line is the second half of the Grand Line? Or the New World is the second half of the Grand Line? Because he mentions the Red Line here. And it's done in such a way that I feel like I missed something. Like I was supposed to remember this being mentioned earlier. And the Red Line didn't actually like ring any bells for me. So I don't know if that's been brought up and I just forgot, or if this is the first time it's being mentioned. But I couldn't I didn't understand if that was a whole other section of the map or what. Bernadette says the New World is the second half. The Red Line is the continent with the mountain. Okay. I'm thinking that I may... Oh, okay. Seraphim says the Red Line is the mountain range that cuts the Grand Line in half. Okay. Yeah. Florian, I'll make you an explanation video. Thank you, Florian. Or there may be one out there. Like, I'm sure I'm not the only one that has been kind of flummoxed by the way this universe is set up, because it's a real weird setup, you know? So, but there is a part of me that's also like, I don't know, maybe I just don't need to really like know this, and I'll just take all their word for it. You know, how much do I really need to like know? How much do I need to get this? Bernadette says there's also an explanation and a map in Discord now. Okay. Thank you, team. Working together. But anyways, yeah, Coby is on the ground and he's talking about how embarrassed he is and basically how he wants to crawl into a hole and die. He's very, very dramatic. And Luffy is like, you have to get to that level if you want to catch me. I really did appreciate that. It's just, it's such swagger, even though it's not actually coming from Luffy. It's a matter of fact thing. But Luffy is like, well, yeah, you're talking about like nailing me to the wall. And I got news for you. I just beat the whole Buster Call of Marines. So yeah, you have to become Admiral because God knows nobody else was able to do jack shit to me. And I was like, that is a good point. And he's like, and you know, keep in mind that like we did some damage and the next time you and I meet, we are all going to be stronger than we are right now too. So you're going to have your work cut out for you. And he's just smiling at Coby in this real like, it's taking it for granted that this is a doable goal for Coby. And Coby just gets all choked up. And he's like, I can't believe that he has faith in me like that. And I think this is so funny that like, basically Coby is telling Luffy that one of his dreams is to eventually take Luffy down. And Luffy is just like, yeah, buddy, go for it. Which is such a weird place to be. But I mean, I appreciate that there isn't really hard feelings about it. Luffy is just like, that is an admirable goal to work toward. And I applaud you for it. And if you keep working toward it, maybe you don't achieve your goal, but you'll still be stronger and you'll still be better than you are now. And that's all we're aiming for, right? So yeah, this whole bit with Coby, it's just really funny because he has looked up to Luffy for so long, obviously. And he's comes in and is able to prove that he is like, you know, he's grown up a lot and he has been working really hard and has made a lot of progress. But Luffy is still showing him something to continue admiring and be impressed by that has nothing to do with his physical strength. It's only about like his mindset and the way that he encourages his friends and believes in people and wants them to reach their goals. And I do appreciate that Zoro is just like, Luffy, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but you really have like motivated an enemy. And I don't know that that's what you wanted to be doing, buddy. But Luffy is just pretty much like, yeah, well, you know. And then we cut to Coby talking to Helmeppo by themselves. And he's saying to Helmeppo about how, like, I don't know that he understands what it looks like to the rest of the world that they just completely fucking destroyed Enies Lobby. And Helmeppo is like, yeah, it looks really, really bad for the government too. I mean, and they brought down like a CP9, which I guess most people don't even believe that's a real organization or know about it. So they aren't going to like share that. But it does, like, it makes him seem like he is much more of an enemy of the state than I think they intended. And they are enemies of the state considering everything. But like their goal was Robin. It wasn't to make a point. It wasn't to take down the government a peg in order to start or like fuel a resistance or anything. It was purely to get Robin back. And it's just interesting that they may become kind of a symbol that they didn't intend. So yeah, this whole bit here with the two of them talking, I kind of liked because it eventually ends up with like Helmeppo being like, I don't know what they were thinking going after the government in this way. And Coby being like, see, I knew you cared about them. You tried to act like you weren't invested, but you are a little bit. And Helmeppo's just like, shut up. But I'm wondering like how often we're going to check in with them, or if this is going to be the last time we see them for a little while, and then like, you know, they'll come back many, many episodes from now again and be sort of a surprise again. I don't know. But we go from here to the beginning of the party. And our friends are hanging out by the pool. Sanji is making a bunch of food. There's a point at which, like, he turns around and he's got a couple of big kebab, like, sticks, and he accidentally puts them directly into, what's her name's mouth? I'm wanting to say Aokiji, but that's the guy. Kokoro. And she just, like, eats the whole thing, and he falls to his knees. He seems, like, so upset, but honestly, we see so much food around and, like, other people eating just as much, and I was kind of like, I don't know, dude. It seems like she just kind of ate, like, a reasonable amount considering the way I'm seeing everybody else around you eat. I don't know. But this whole bit is like a reunion of everybody. We've got the giants coming. We've got the other, like, shipwrights showing up. We've got the two huge sea bulls, Sodom and Gomorrah, showing up. Fucking Polly, who is, like, getting on Nami's case for what she's wearing because she's in a swimsuit. And he, like, holds a towel up as Iceberg comes in and is like, this perverted girl can't show you her filthy body. And I was just like, Polly, every time I start to be on your side a little bit, you just have to ruin it. Why do you keep doing this, sir? It doesn't have to be like this, Polly. You don't have to be like this. You just don't. Just shut up. It's the kind of thing that it's like, I'm sure that this joke played a lot better in the earlier eras. Nowadays, it just really falls very flat. And that's how a lot of humor is. Things are not going to age well always. It's fine. But God, I just feel like every time I start to sort of warm up to him, he has to do another one of these things. And I'm like, between this and the weirdness of, like, that sexual harassment coming from what's-her-face, couple of real misses in the year of 2023. And let's see who else is here. Oh yeah, Florian is saying we got Sniper King. And yeah, there's a really good moment, you guys, where he is like, does everybody want to hear my, like, number one hit or something? And then the Sniper King song starts to play, and it's sort of like they're just playing it on the stereo at the party, which honestly, I adore. I really do. Like, there's just something about the fact that he has managed to maintain this weird identity. I still desperately want the unveiling, but I'm fine with that not happening here at the party. At the party, let him just continue to live in his element with his little, like, alternate, what's the word I want? Like, persona. And everybody else is singing along with it. Loo, loo, la, la, loo. The Sniper King song is honestly quite good. I'm not mad at it. We have got all of the macho men who are just absolutely, like, putting it away. And I don't mean food. They're drinking, and they're drinking, like, these giant barrel-sized tankards of booze. Tankards. And, like, taking a minute and putting it down and then just burping and all laughing together. And it's really cute. But then we go to Robin, and she's got, like, a drink, and she's just chilling sort of on the periphery of things, as she does. And then she hears a voice, and it's Aokiji. And basically, he tells her that the giant that he killed was a friend of his. And he's, like, coming to her to ask why she hasn't run away and why she didn't escape, because she could have probably gotten away and left the Straw Hats and done what she usually does and just sort of bails and takes off. And when she says, like, I couldn't just let them die, I'm not going to do that to them, this is when he brings up Saul. And he's like, it was really hard to do what I had to do, but I had to do my duty to the Marines. And I heard him say about how, like, you aren't destined to be alone, and I honored his wishes in letting you escape the island. But I started to really think that maybe you weren't going to find some place that was yours, and that you weren't going to be able to like live your life, and maybe you were super dangerous. And I even started to think that you had a death wish, basically. And I was starting to feel like, all right, maybe I do need to put her down, because she's just going to keep bringing like ruin on people. And then you met these guys, and it seems like maybe you found your people finally after all. And she says that yes, she has. And he says, I don't know if letting you live was the right thing to do or not, but I think you're going to have to show me that it was the right thing to do. Which is kind of funny, because I'm like, you don't know if it was the right thing to do or not. She was a fucking child. Of course it was the right thing to do, you weirdo. But he basically tells her good luck and walks away. And she's like on one side of the wall when they're talking. And when he says goodbye, she like runs around to look for him, and he's already gone. And when she turns back, fucking Luffy is like, he's got a bandage. He's got chopsticks in his nostrils that are like being held in place by his lips. His cheeks are stuffed with food, and he's just like, hey, have you had any dinner? Basically. And she just starts laughing. And I was like, honestly, Luffy, what in the hell are you doing? So that is the end of the first episode. And the second one is a lot of partying. Like I thought that we were going to have sort of ended that. There's a really weird moment with two of the dudes who run the sea train, and they're like convinced that Nami and Polly are getting married, I guess. I felt like there was a joke here that I was supposed to get. And I guess that is the joke, that they would think this, but like, these two dudes, have we run into them? Was there a whole thing with them? Because there's just a vibe to this scene, like we're returning to a joke that we started earlier, but it did not hit for me at all. And I was just kind of puzzled throughout this whole thing. I think if we did encounter them earlier, maybe it was like in the context of some of our friends being nearby. But in this scene, we're just with these two dudes by themselves, and none of the Straw Hats are party to it. So it just was a real weird sort of energy, and it doesn't go anywhere exactly. But everybody in the town essentially is like heading over to the site of the party, because they've got all of these fireworks and everything. Like, it's obvious that they are really going all out. And we find out that Luffy spent almost all the money that they have to fund this party, which of course Nami absolutely completely loses her shit over it, while Luffy does not understand what the big deal is. So we have then this thing that's like mostly what's going on at Water 7. But then we have these, this announcement that's coming to, what are these guys called? The 5 Kings? Because we've got like the 4 emperors, right? And then there's a guy who's coming to tell them about red-haired Shanks meeting with Whitebeard, and these guys get very agitated hearing that this is happening. And it turns out that what Shanks is doing is he meets with Whitebeard to try and convince him to back off on chasing Blackbeard. Because Blackbeard, and tell me if I'm getting this mixed up, guys, is the one who gave Shanks the scar on his eye. And so Shanks wants to deal out his own retribution for that. And he's kind of in competition with Whitebeard to get this guy. If I'm not mistaken, I thought that Blackbeard worked for Whitebeard, but did he, and then he like sort of went AWOL? But because there's an energy coming off of Whitebeard that he intends to punish Blackbeard when he catches him. So they each have their like own reasons for wanting to like track this guy down. But Whitebeard basically tells Shanks to fuck off and get lost. And if you find him first, then you find him first. But I am absolutely not going to like pull my punches and let you catch him, because I have very distinct reasons for wanting to find him. And it's it's funny because Shanks brings him this like huge jar of sake, and I guess it's supposed to be sort of a peace offering, you know, but there's so much significance to him drinking this thing that I was really expecting it to be like more significant that he drank it, like that there was it, not necessarily poison, but that there was something in it, or I don't know. But it seems like it really was just what it looked like, a gift, and that was it. So that's pretty much what we're getting about Longshanks here, is that he is after this dude, and he is not going to be allowed to have satisfaction the way that he was hoping for. And I'm trying to see... he stood in the shadow of the great pirate Whitebeard all this time, and now he's gained power and started to make his move. In the end, he'll aim for the top. With his own will, he'll eventually come to take even your position. And this scene is like very dramatic. The whole way that it's filmed, it's sort of it's a little bit different than I feel like we're used to seeing, and a little bit more specifically cinematic and not cartoony, with the way that we have like different images superimposed over each other, and it feels uncharacteristically serious in terms of like setting the plot up and everything. But yeah, he's telling Whitebeard to please like pull back Ace and stop him from going after Blackbeard. That's all I wanted to ask. And this guy has that mustache that last episode when I was talking to Florian, I was like, what is this silhouette that I'm seeing? And he reminded me that that was Whitebeard, because I don't know how I forgot this mustache. I'm assuming it's just all of the like pipes and things coming out of him that distracted me. But yeah, he says he killed one of his crewmates. That's what Blackbeard did. He broke the number one rule. Once I let them board my ship, they're all my sons, no matter how foolish they are. Where can my killed son's soul go? It is my responsibility to show that idiot Teach that you can't make your way in the world if you lack a moral code. And what I found interesting here was that he is like, the last name is Teach, and there is a very important character in one of Will White's other series with the last name Teach. And also there's a whole thing here about the power of Shanks's hockey. And I will tell you what, guys, when it took a minute for the sub to catch up with the dub. So somebody says something about his strong hockey, and they say it in such a way that I thought we were talking about the sport for a second, and I was so confused. But very quickly I saw the sub, and it's spelled Haki. But apparently this is just like the aura that he gives off, and it is so overwhelming that a lot of ordinary dudes just pass out from simply being in his presence, which is really fun, and also very similar to a thing in the Cradle series, where the pressure of somebody's spirit, if they go above a certain level of development, they wind up having to create a veil to hide it so that they can deal with ordinary people, because otherwise it's too disruptive and they can't converse with anybody below a certain level without completely leveling that person and like essentially crushing them to the ground so that they can't breathe. So what I'm saying is that Shanks should pretty much figure out how to veil his spirit, because it seems like it would be a lot more convenient if he could do that. Gus says real life Blackbeard's name was Edward Teach. Okay. One Piece's Blackbeard's name is Marshall D. Teach. Gotcha. And Seraphim, the stash is so epic, no one questions calling it a beard. Yeah, I feel like I have just been assuming this whole time that, like, he had a beard and then whatever happened to him to cause him to need all of these, like, pipes and hoses and stuff caused it so that he couldn't have that beard anymore. And I completely made that up in my head. Like, there's no evidence for that at all. I don't even know where I got that. It's just like this weird assumption that I've made, which I do a lot. Like, I just decide, oh, probably this XYZ, and it's complete fan fiction. And that's not just with this show. This is with so many things I cover. And then an explanation will show up, and either it's what I thought, and I'm just kind of like, didn't think you needed to say that because I thought we all had accepted that already, which we hadn't, or I'm so wrong that I'm genuinely startled it wasn't the thing that I had just been assuming the whole time. But yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, clearly he's called Whitebeard because he used to have a beard and he just doesn't anymore, but the name stuck, you know. Oh yeah, Florian is pointing out Shanks and Buggy served on Rogers' ship. Right, I forgot to mention that, and I forgot when he's just like, is your weirdo friend Buggy still around? And Shanks is like, that guy? Yeah, he was real strange. I hear he's still a pirate, but who knows? And I was just like, man, Buggy would be so insulted to hear himself being dismissed that way, and just like, who cares, really? So, people are telling me it's because beard and mustache are the same word in Japanese. Gotcha. But yeah, this whole thing ends in a fight between Shanks and Whitebeard, and it like cuts away. They're still in the middle of it to all of the dudes on Shanks's ship, and they're sort of like wondering if they should step in and do something, but they have enough faith in their boss to be like, I'm pretty sure he's going to be okay. But they see that there is a storm brewing above their heads, and the sky is weirdly like sort of split in half. And apparently that is a signal of some kind that this is due to a power, I guess, that Whitebeard has, or Shanks has. I don't know. And I'm overtime, or no, maybe I'm not overtime actually, because I started a little late because I was explaining some things to you guys. But we go back to Water 7, and the Frankie pirates all read the newspaper, and they find out that they are not mentioned. And they're taking the fact that they're not mentioned as an indicator that they don't have to flee, which I'm not really sure that's the right call to make. I feel like if they're fooling you into thinking you've flown under the radar so that you don't run, maybe it'll just make you easier to catch. Maybe this is a play. But the thing that I really wanted to mention is the fact that it looks like Iceberg and Frankie are indeed going to work together to try and build a new ship. And when Luffy hears that they're getting a new ship, but they don't have to pay for it, he is so excited. And Sanji's like, oh, right, I forgot. You were like asleep for that entire thing. And Sanji is like excited about the fact that he is going to have a bounty, and he expects that he's going to have the highest one. Chopper, of course, is just eager to have a bounty at all. Like, he just wants to be included because he's the sweetest baby in the entire world. I'm really looking forward to seeing what their ship looks like, though, because I don't like. I'm hopeful that it's that crazy thing that Frankie had in his head, but I'm not convinced that's what we're getting, you know. And the other shipwrights wind up turning up at the like end of the conversation between Frankie and Iceberg, and they're all just like, well, I'm sure y'all are going to need the help, so we're here to throw in and assist with the Straw Hats. And I really do like this, the fact that they're all like working together, and Frankie gets so emotional and he just starts crying all over his project, and he's just like, this is really touching, and his backup girls start crying too, and it was just honestly adorable. I love the frog, whose name I forgot, but he's also like gesturing with them, and there's something about that frog being around but not really like being that key. I don't know, that's just cracking me up. But yeah, so the episode ends with Nami screaming at Luffy for spending all of their money. And then she's like talking about how she wanted to get nice furniture for the ship. But Robin's like, well, we can go look at some secondhand stores. And Luffy behind her is like, can I get some spending money? And she screams at him that he's cut off forever and he's not allowed to have anything. And I think that is more than fair. You had your allowance, sir, and you chose to spend it all on a party. And that is where that money went. And we get a little, we get a montage at the very end of Robin and Nami shopping. Sanji in like the market area looking at the different foods, Zoro in a dead end, which really did crack me up so he's just looking around like, I don't know why, but I keep picturing, and I know it's not that voice actor, but I keep in my head Zoro is voice acted by the guy who played Putty on Seinfeld, the same one who's like, yes, the poison for Cusco, the poison we made to kill Cusco's poison. That guy, I keep picturing that as Zoro's voice. And I don't know where that's coming from, but every time. And then we see Chopper and Luffy sailing down one of the canals. And that is the end of the episode. All right, guys, I have got to wrap this up, but thank you all so much for hanging out with me. Appreciate you all a lot. Thank you all for holding my hand through this whole thing with a map, and I will be seeing you soon with a new episode. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.